Okay, so here we are live once again with another Mcfarlane DC Multiverse unboxing, and this is the Riddler in his final suit. It's one of them red platinum editions. I'm not sure what that means. I think it might mean store exclusive, but I thought gold label was store exclusive. So why'd they change it? I don't know. Did they change it? Is that what it is? I don't know. I'll have to look it up at some point. Here's the artwork on the back, and we basically have the image of the Batman Forever movie poster. And this is basically the same figure that we already got in the regular Batman Forever assortment. Reuses most of the same parts. It's got an all new head, and it looks like this figure I thought was pretty good, but I've got some issues with it. And it looks like some of these issues have actually been addressed with this figure. And this is one that I was really hoping that they would make when I first saw the standard one, which is more like the default look for the Riddler. I was really hoping that they would do this one from the end of the film, and my wish was granted. So let's go ahead and open them up. You can see here it says on the side, the Riddler, final suit, Batman Forever. It does have the Batman Forever logo on the side, so that's nice. The bat symbol with the question mark encircling it. That was something that excited me a lot when I first saw that. So I'm like, oh yeah, I know who the villain's going to be this time. And in addition to the Riddler, we got Two-Face, which Tommy Lee Jones, I know a lot of people don't like his performance as Two-Face, but I thought he was great as Cesar Romero's Joker. Now, this does have a rather odd trading card that comes with it. If I can get it off. It's not on the same bubble as the figure stand, unfortunately. And the thing that's odd about it is it uses the image of the Riddler. I don't know if this is just the only thing that DC gave them as far as something to use on their packaging. It probably would have made more sense to actually have the Riddler in this outfit. This is the outfit we get. So the back of this, I think, is the same as on the other Batman Forever trading cards. That's what the back looks like. We'll go ahead and read it anyway. The Riddler, final suit, Batman Forever, data file, real name, Edward Nygma, not Nashton. I don't buy into that BS. Sorry, Denny O'Neil. May your spirit rest in peace out there in the universe, wherever. You are a brilliant writer, but that's one thing that I absolutely reject. No, the reason he became the Riddler is because his name's Edward Nygma. Read the original first appearance, you'll see. Real name Edward Nygma. Batman faces off against two foes: the schizophrenic, horribly scarred former district attorney Harvey Dent, aka Two-Face, and the Riddler, a disgruntled ex-Wayne Enterprises inventor seeking revenge against his former employer and unleashing his brain-sucking weapon on Gotham City's residents. As the Cape Crusader also deals with tortured memories of his parents' murder, he has a new romance with psychologist Chase Meridian. Doesn't mention Robin at all, but other than that, I think it's a fairly decent, blurb to describe the movie. But is it a good bio of the Riddler? Absolutely not. Although, oddly enough, it does tell us more about the Riddler than some bios on these trading cards do, doesn't it? So the Riddler comes with a few accessories. We can see that he's holding the question mark cane in his hand, and we'll have a closer look at that in a second. Let's go ahead and get the other accessories out, which would be a pair of extra hands. And one is a solid fist hand, so that he can, as it says in the Batman Forever novelization, punch someone with all the power and force of a bag of rice cakes. That's another writer that we lost, unfortunately, fairly recently, Peter David, who wrote the novelization of Batman Forever. You guys know that I like the movie Batman Forever. It's not a perfect movie, but it is a very entertaining movie. And I feel like out of all the Batman movies, it's the most popcorn Batman movie. It's one that you can just put on and have in the background and kind of, be doing your chores or working on some hobbies or something and have it playing in the background. You don't have to pay too much attention to it, but it's good to have for background noise, and you can watch it and just kind of veg out and enjoy it, and that's cool. But it's not something where it's like say with the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, which I think are fine films, but they're not really popcorn movies. It's like, especially like The Dark Knight. Like when I watched that, I felt like I was watching like The Godfather or something, or like Heat, or some an actual film that was about Batman. But Batman Forever didn't strive to be that at all. Batman Forever was just a plain, pure, simple popcorn movie, and it succeeded at that admirably. So here's the Riddler's cane, and you can see that it is the cane from the end of the film, where it has the question mark with the skull embedded into it, and it's got that button in the middle, like almost like a third eye in the middle of his forehead, and that's the button that the Riddler would press to release Robin and Dr. Chase Meridian from the tubes in which they were held, and drop them into a watery grave. Like Jim Carrey, I think, was a big part of why that movie was a success at the box office, and it was, make no mistake, a success at the box office. I really felt like Batman Forever did capture the zeitgeist of the time in a way that not every movie does. And Jim Carrey was huge at the time. I was a fan of Jim Carrey from In Living Color. And at that time, he was best known as, the white guy on In Living Color. And he did a lot of funny characters on there, like Fire Marshal Bill, I think was probably his most memorable character. Got to do a lot of imitations of, like, say, William Shatner, Pee Wee Herman, basically, like, anytime they needed somebody to play a white guy, because he was the white guy. He was billed as James Carey at that time. They took him very seriously. He was taken very seriously as an actor. So I don't know what's going. It sounds like my phone. I see what happened. Hang on a second. Why is it still making noise? Turn the volume all the way down. I don't want to play that. All right. Sorry about that. That was distracting me. So I have like an extra phone, and I tossed it over on my bed, and the the power cord landed on the screen, and it started playing a video on YouTube, which like, I kept hearing noise from over there. Oh, that's what's going on. That was weird. So anyway, yeah, Lone Dragon, I was invisible for a minute, but now I'm back. So oh yeah, let's go ahead and get the figure stand out of here before I forget about that. And it is the typical matte black figure stand with a glossy DC logo embossed onto it. So let's go ahead and have a look at our Riddler figure. So this is pretty much the same sculpt in terms of the body of the figure. Everything from the neck down does seem to be the same. And, he does come with another hand that's shaped much like that. So it is a completely different head sculpt, though. And I was thinking, since the hair technically is a separate piece on this figure, I was thinking they could probably just make a hair piece, a separate hair piece. But no, this is indeed a completely different head sculpt with a completely different expression. You can see he's got like a big old grin on this one, whereas it's more of an open mouth kind of laughing expression on the original one. So that's neat. And they got the hairstyle, like that kind of like Wolverine, Ace Ventura 2 kind of hairstyle that he had. Jim Carrey had a lot of input into his costumes and hair and makeup and everything like that. And it would not surprise me if like he put that hairstyle in there as like a nod to what he was already planning on doing with Ace Ventura 2. One thing that I really like about this figure is one of my complaints about this one is you can see that like there's a lot of space where there probably should be some question marks, and even like the insides of his arms, they didn't manage to get any question marks onto the insides of his arms at all. But that is not the case with this guy. You can see that he's got question marks all on the inside of his arms. Now you can see that there is a little bit of space down the front of his legs. Like you can see where like where the two different tampagraphs are. But it works, I think, a lot better than how they did it on the first figure, where it's like really obvious. But this one, you got to kind of look for it, but it is there. But I think they did a much better job of getting all the question marks to match up. This is a slightly metallic, kind of off-white unitard that he's wearing. It's like it's not pure white. It's almost kind of like a pearl white sort of thing. And you can see, I don't know if it's coming across on the camera very well, but if you look at it in person, you can see that they actually did mix some glitter in with this. So it gives it a little more sparkle. It's not quite as sparkly as what it looked like in the movie, but you know, that's going to be kind of a tricky thing to pull off anyway. But the head sculpt is great. It's an excellent likeness of Jim Carrey, just like with the previous one. I think they really nailed the likeness, and it's great that we've got like two different expressions for our Riddler figures. It's great that they didn't just rest on their laurels, like you know when Kenner did their Batman Forever figures, and I have one right here, like you know the standard. This is the one from the 2-pack. But they pretty much sculpted all of the Batman Forever figures to have this same face head sculpt. You know, they sculpt it with different hair, like the talking Riddler was more based on this costume, so he had hair more like this. But the face was the same. The other ones, you know, with the bowler hat, you can see that it's the same face. It's just like they have a hat on this one and just the hair on this one. So Mcfarlane actually giving us a completely different Riddler head sculpt, and an equally good one, I think. This really did nail the Jim Carrey likeness. Kudos to them on that. And then you can see the question marks are in like a metallic green, so they're really shiny, look really cool. The question mark on his mask is that same shade of metallic green, and even that little question mark dot mole that he has there on his cheek, which you know is kind of cheesy and you know goofy and like I said, this is the Riddler that's most fabulous. You know, you know what I mean. But they really nailed the look of it. I think he looks great. He's got that little bit of black eye makeup around the eyes on the inside of the mask. You can see looks awesome. So let's go ahead and talk about his articulation. The Riddler can look up about that far, look down about that far, tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side, rotate the head all the way around. Of course, he can rotate all around at the shoulders, and he's got that kind of Mcfarlane, you know, butterfly joint in there, so he can move around like that. He's got double jointed elbows. That's about the range of motion you get at the elbows. So like full range of motion, excellent range of motion. He's got the cool Mcfarlane wrist articulation, so we can move his wrist around any which way we want to. Very cool. He rotates all the way around where the rib cage meets the abs, and where the abs meet the hips, the waist, and then, you know, kind of move him around any which way you want to like that. Very cool. The Riddler can kick up about that far, which is an excellent range of motion. Got double jointed knees. That's about the range of motion you get at the knees. He does have that little bit of wobble there, like most Mcfarlane figures have. Doesn't rotate all the way around, but it moves enough, I think. And then he's got the cool Mcfarlane ankle articulations. The ankle rotates all the way around where it meets the shin and where it meets the foot, both. And then his feet can point down about that far, point up about that far, and then he's got toe articulation just to show off. So let's go ahead and put the cane back into his hand. And one thing that I think would have made this figure a little bit better is if he had come with one extra hand that would be like a pointing hand, and that way he could be pointing at the button. You could have him be pointing at the button on the cane. I think that would be a really cool thing to do, is if he's about to press it. That would be neat. Another thing that I think would have been great to see on this figure is if they had have given him an alternate head. Because if you remember at the climax of the film, when Batman hurls his batarang and hits the box, it overloads his head, it overloads his brain, and you see it getting all distorted with kind of a cheesy special effect. In the novel, Peter David suggests that it wasn't literally making his head warp around like that. That was just a holographic projection, as Edward was projecting what his head felt like at the moment, which I thought was kind of a nifty explanation. Then it made sense that that effect was so cheesy looking as it was. But afterwards, his head was all kind of scarred, and the pink wig was all melted and frayed and matted, sticking up all over the place. And but his face just looked really nasty because because he'd been burned by the overload of power or whatever, and like parts of the mask were actually like burnt off, and it looked really cool. I thought it would have been really nice, and obviously it would have cost them a little more money. Maybe they could have made him like a collector edition figure or something. It would have been nice, I think, to have an alternate head that looked like that version of the Riddler, because I highly doubt they're gonna make a third Jim Carrey Riddler at this point. So that seems like it's a little bit of a missed opportunity, unfortunately. But it's still a really cool figure for what we got. I'm just saying that would have been a neat thing to have as like a bonus. And maybe I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get it. But I'm still happy with what we got. So anyway, this is a great figure. They did a really good job with them, especially because this is a design that is really complicated and very difficult to pull off. And I think they pulled it off about as best as you can expect. If you had the old talking Riddler figure from the Kenner line that was wearing this outfit, they actually solved a lot of the same problems in the same way, with not necessarily making it like a sparkly outfit, but kind of more of a metallic outfit. And this one kind of takes that up to the next level, not only making the white that kind of pearlescent plastic and embedding some glitter in it as well, but also with the metallic question marks. So it's not exactly like the sequined look like he had in the movie, but I think that it's about as close as they could probably get. And it looks really impressive. Like I said, I was a big fan of Jim Carrey's performance in this movie. I thought he was really funny and very menacing in some scenes. I think that was probably a lot of people's first taste at how Jim Carrey could actually be kind of scary if he needed to. So one of my favorite scenes of his in the whole movie is when he kills Stickley, and then he just gets right up in that camera where he's like, "Questions, Mr. Wayne. My work raises too many questions. Why hasn't anybody put you in your place?" And he's just so sinister in that. And I really enjoy that scene. That to me is probably the best that Jim Carrey was in that movie. And he was great as the Riddler. Like I said, he was funny when he needed to be. He was kind of quietly creepy when he needed to be, especially a lot of those early Edward Nygma scenes. He was like loud and over the top, even if he couldn't tell, when he needed to be. So yeah, Jim Carrey did a great job. So he's probably my second favorite actor to play the Riddler, after, of course, the great Frank Gorshin. So I was originally planning on opening up a completely different Riddler figure today, but I had that one to open up, so I decided to do that, the Batman Forever one instead. But I do have, finally, much delayed, I've opened up the rest of these figures like probably almost a year ago at this point, but yeah, finally got the pink version of the Riddler. And if you're watching and you don't know why he's the pink version of the Riddler, trust me, I'm going to go over all that on our next episode. And that's probably either going to be later this afternoon or sometime early in the morning. I'm going to do a bonus episode so I can get the Riddler taken care of. And so we're basically gonna have a trio of Riddler figures because once I'm finished with this one, I'm gonna start on Super Friends, and I've got the Riddler figure from Super Friends, so we're gonna do him first as far as opening up those Super Friends figures go. So yeah, Riddler, Riddler, Riddler. That's how it's gonna be here for a while, and then what are the Super Friends figures we got? We got Lex Luthor, we got Sinestro, we got Green Lantern, when we got two Batman figures because we have the regular standard heroic version of Batman from the universe we know as ours, and then we have from the universe of evil the super enemies version of Batman. I'll try not to talk too much in the Ted Knight voice when I get to those, but I'm gonna have to do it a little bit. I do love that Ted. Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice, yeah, you kind of have to do that sort of thing when you're talking about Super Friends. That's just part of the shtick. So yeah, we'll be getting into Super Friends in the coming week, and that should be a lot of fun. And they've got at least two more waves of Super Friends coming, so they're gonna have characters like Superman, Aquaman, Flash, Cheetah, Captain Cold. I'm really looking forward to Captain Cold. A lot of really cool stuff coming up. So make sure if you enjoyed this video that you like and subscribe and all that fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment and let me know what you think about this new version of Jim Carrey as the Riddler. Which Riddler figure do you think is superior? Personally, I think that they did an even. I thought this Riddler was a good figure, but I think they did an even better job with the final suit version. They were able to fix some of the problems and their minor quibbles that I had with this version, but they were able to fix some of them, and I think he wound up looking a little more impressive than the more standard version. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments as to whether or not I'm right or wrong. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next time. Bye.